Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I am back with another speed build, and this is actually part of my 50 state series. It's been a while since I've posted one of these, but this one's actually been in the work for a couple of months, and I posted a members only video today showing kind of the behind the scenes of the process of this one if you'd like to check that out. But today we are tackling the state of Minnesota. If you haven't seen the state series before, I will make sure to have a playlist down below, as well as right now there should be text on screen showing you which states we have already completed. But basically this is a series where I'm going through slowly, and I mean very slowly, it's been many years at this point, and I am decorating or building houses based loosely on each state in the US. I do this by looking up facts and history behind each state, as well as looking through Zillow listings and getting some inspiration from the homes I see in the area, whether that's general style or some like quirky features. It's a really fun series, but with that being said, none of them are going to be 100% accurate, as it's really hard to capture an entire state in a singular Sims build, but I hope you will enjoy this one nonetheless. If you do and you'd like to download it for yourself, this build is available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information is in the description down below as well. I also wanted to let you know that the September sale is going on right now on the EA app with lots of packs up to 50% off, and that sale ends on September 18th. So now is a great time to pick up any packs you've been thinking about, or maybe even pre-order Adventure Awaits. I did build 3 of the lots for that new world, and I'm really excited about it. And it would mean the world to me if you would use my creator code Gryphi when making a purchase on the app, as I receive a small commission and it really helps to support me as a creator. So thank you for considering, and thanks to EA for sponsoring this portion of the video. So a little bit about this build. Something that I was finding a lot in my searches on Zillow, where I mostly looked in the Minneapolis region of Minnesota, was a lot of craftsman inspired homes, and I took a lot of inspiration from the shapes I was seeing there. So this one is definitely very craftsman inspired, and I did build this in the world of Glimmerbrook, which is the world that comes with the Realm of Magic game pack. And then for the columns and windows and stuff, I'm using a ton of items from Growing Together because it's all very, very craftsman inspired. But as that is all unfolding on screen, I did want to tell you a little bit about Minnesota. And this is something I do for all of the state builds where I like read you information. It's always a little bit of fun. So Minnesota is a state in the upper Midwestern region of the US. It borders Canada to the north, Wisconsin to the east, Iowa to the south, and North and South Dakota to the west. And it is the 12th largest state by area. It is also the 22nd most populous state with 5.8 million residents. The capital is St. Paul, and the largest city is Minneapolis. And Minnesota became a state in 1858, making it the 32nd state in the Union. I have a ton of information written down, so we will sprinkle that in throughout this voiceover. But right now I am figuring out the front of the home a little bit because I really wanted to have a roof piece over the entry staircase. So I'm messing around with that idea now, and most of the shape of this house has come together, but some of it is going to get fiddled around a little bit as I create a couple of extra bump outs on the front, which I think ends up looking really cool in the end and allows for some additional interior space in this build. And this ends up being a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. So it's pretty spacious. There's also a office in here. So that's another one that could be repurposed as an additional bedroom. So this could be a 5-bedroom house if you wanted it to be. So there's definitely a lot of space for many, many Sims in this home. And unlike a lot of the builds in this series, this is a state I have visited before, but I wasn't there for very long. I spent like 8 hours in Minneapolis once, and I've also had really brief layovers there when I'm flying out of New England. But I have actually like traveled outside the airport and been in the city of Minneapolis before. However, I'm not super familiar with the home. So this was a lot of research and talking to people I know that live in the area. For example, some of the landscaping I did outside was highly inspired by a Minnesota resident who insisted I needed to have hydrangeas outside. So that ends up being out there, which I thought was really fun. But that'll be a little bit later, as it takes me a very long time to finalize the shape of this build and get into the landscaping, and also is so indecisive with the color of this house. And when I say I've been working on this one for a while, I started this build in May. So a good 4 months ago. For some reason, I was really excited about it and I got started. I looked up tons of inspiration and information and I got like the shell of this house created and even some of the floor plan, and then I never finished it. And I picked it up recently and I'm so excited that I did because I'm really happy with how this one came out. And I'm hoping to do some more state builds really soon, so let me know what you'd like to see next. So I'm working on the floor plan now and placing down some placeholder furniture to get an idea of where I want everything to go. Some of that does stay, like I do use those base game cabinets and countertops, but not everything is going to stay. I just wanted to lay things out and get a better idea of how everything could fit into the space. And then upstairs, I'm trying to figure out the shapes of some of these rooms because it was going to be kind of a weird shape for at least one of them, and they're a little bit strange. But I really actually like how the bedrooms came out upstairs. I think it's kind of realistic to not have perfectly square or rectangular rooms, especially in a house like this where the rooms are kind of built into the roof. So I was pretty pleased with this floor plan overall, and I do extend this bathroom ever so slightly, and it ends up kind of being the one downstairs here. It is able to be accessed both from the hallway and through a door in the primary bedroom. So I guess you could call it like a Jack and Jill bathroom. It's got two doorways. It just made the most sense for the bottom floor because I really wanted it to be an ensuite, but then there wasn't another bathroom downstairs, so I decided to do it that way. Anyway, as I'm continuing to pick out some flooring and place down some furniture, and I think we'll be going back outside here shortly to go ahead and fiddle with the wallpaper, I thought we could talk a little bit more about the state of Minnesota. You've probably heard this before, but Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes, because there are so many lakes there. It's actually wild if you've ever flown over it. And Minnesota actually derives its name from the Dakota language and has been inhabited by various Native Americans since the 11th century BCE. The state gets its name from the Minnesota River, and the word Minnesota is an anglicized form of the Sioux Indian word Minnesota, which means sky-tinted or cloudy water. Moving on to a couple of fun facts, Minnesota is the birthplace of a bunch of different inventions, including the Post-it note, rollerblades, water skiing, Scotch tape, the bunt pan, and Milky Way bars. And it is also home to the Mall of America, which is big enough to hold 32 Boeing 747 airplanes. Like, that sounds massive, and that's someplace I would love to visit at some point in time. I don't know if I'll ever get the chance, but I would love to check out Mall of America. Let me know if you've been there before. Anyway, the landscaping is starting to come together here. I am playing around with various low-lying flowers and lots of hydrangeas, and I changed the color of them a few different times. I go back and forth between this like bluish purple color and a white, and I also really love the low-lying flowers I put here. They have little purple flowers in them, which is really cute, and I ended up actually putting some lavender mixed in as well for a nice little pop of purple. I think it is so pretty. And the wallpaper we have on the outside here is not the final one. It actually, I think, is the final texture, but very much not the same color. It ends up being sort of a dark brown, and I'm also going to be changing lots. So right now we're building on the Glimmerbrook watch lot, but I move it to a different lot in this world because I thought the lighting was better over there. So we'll be doing that here in a little bit, but first I'm going to figure out which color I want the outside of this build to be. And I'm also going to change the flower boxes to be black instead, and I am so close to the final color scheme. I think we're actually going to change it again after I head inside and start the kitchen. Kitchens are always the room I decorate first because they're my favorite to decorate in a house, and I don't really know why that is. I think maybe it just kind of sets the tone for what the rest of the home might look like, because you can get like the cozy vibes of where the family spends a lot of time cooking meals together and stuff. So yeah, we're starting here. I did keep the same cabinets that I had when I was just putting placeholders down, but I changed them to this darker color. And I love the tile I put in the kitchen. It's actually from Jungle Adventure. It's not one I use very often, but I really, really love it. And then I'm adding some shelves up above the fridge just to put some open clutter on, but I mostly wanted closed storage in this kitchen. I think that's pretty realistic. And luckily we just got this beautiful vase of hydrangeas in, oh goodness, what was the latest kit that came out that the hydrangeas are from? The mudroom kit, the Grange mudroom kit. I thought that that was perfect for here. And because Post-it notes came from Minnesota, I just had to put a couple of them here on the fridge. These are in debug. They're originally from Parenthood. They're to like hang up on the parenting board, but I raised a couple of them up to put on the fridge. I thought that that was a fun addition. I tried to add a couple of nods to different facts, like the cereal I just placed down and the cow are actually both from facts that I didn't read out yet. The cows, because there's 3 million cows that live in Minnesota, which is more cows than there are people in 20 different states. That's just kind of wild for me to think about. And I placed down the cereal because it's a normal thing to have in your kitchen, but also Minnesota is home to some of the biggest companies in the United States, which includes Target, Best Buy, 3M, General Mills, Medtronic, Hormel Foods, Ameriprise Financial, Ecolab, and St. Jude Medical Center. So adding the cereal in here was just kind of a fun little nod. I think that's pretty much it for the kitchen now, and we have gone ahead and moved the house to a different lot, and I am drawing out a different driveway, just using some terrain paint and trying to blend it in with some of the plants in this area, and I've actually using Tool to use what it was originally intended for, which is take objects off lot. That's what Tool stands for, and have a couple of them go off of the lot, so they're kind of framing the curve of the fake driveway that is in the world, which I think worked really nicely here. I was very pleased with how well this fit into its environment. Out front, I also put a couple of bikes. I'm pretty sure I moved one of them, and there also ends up being one in the backyard as well. This environment just looks like you would have plenty of places to bike through. It'd probably be very beautiful, and that makes sense because Minnesota has more bike trails than any other state in the country. Also, on average, the state of Minnesota has 1 recreational boat per every 6 state residents, so there are a lot of boats, which makes sense with all of the lakes. So I did make sure to add a boat towards the backyard pretty later on in the build. I'm pretty sure it's like right at the end. I remembered to add a boat, and I decided to use one of the ones that's functional from Island Living. So that way, if you would like your Sims to actually go someplace with open water and use it, they could, but you could probably replace that with one of the decorative debug ones if you prefer. I kind of talked over most of the dining room decoration here. I'm just adding an additional piece of artwork on the wall and a grandfather clock, and then we're going to move into the entryway, but it's a pretty simple dining space. It's not in its own separate room. It's just kind of like next to the kitchen. And I thought that worked really nicely here. And I also ended up using a lot of this vertical wall paneling in this house because I saw it in a ton of reference houses that I was looking at. And it just feels so cozy. And I tend to like to build some of the older homes I find for this series, because I could go state to state and only build new houses, but they would all look the same because new builds tend to look very similar state to state. It's the older homes that I feel like have a lot of that charm and tell that story of that area. So I have some newer items, and there's things that have probably been kind of renovated in this house over the years, but I wanted a lot of the charm of some of the old features being kept as well. So entryway is just about done now, and I'm just adding some more of this paneling. We get a bookcase over here. There ends up actually being quite a few of them in this house, and I got a small sign as well. I just thought it was really cute. And then just picking out a rug to go under the dining table, which in real life you probably don't want to do because that would be a nightmare to clean, but in The Sims, I think it looks nice. And I also actually ended up using a lot of carpeting in this house, not just rugs. So the office is carpeted, and so is the living room and all of the bedrooms. I had it in the dining room at first too, and I do think that's realistic. The homes that my family members have lived in my life, the dining rooms were always fully carpeted, but I just thought it broke it up a little bit better to have some wood in that area in this house. So that is why I decided to do that. And this living room came together so quickly. There's some games in here, plenty of spaces to just relax and watch TV. I decided to use the frame TV that we got in a holiday event last year because it has these snow-covered trees, and when I think of Minnesota, I think of the really intense cold winters. So I just thought that that was a fun way to incorporate that. But anyway, this is the downstairs bathroom that is the ensuite for the primary and also just the main downstairs bathroom. There was only room for a standing shower in here, so I just have that. The 2 bathrooms upstairs, one has a standing shower and one has a shower tub combo, so you have some options. I didn't decorate this house with a pet in mind or a baby, so you don't really need the shower tub combo, but it is there if you'd like it. And I think it's more realistic as well, so you'll see that in a little bit. But this is the primary bedroom. I kept it very woodsy colored, I guess. It kind of matches the woods in the rest of the house. And I used this base game bed with this green and yellow comforter. I thought it was really fun, and I love the shelf that I have over the bedside table. That is from the mudroom kit as well, and I just think it is so beautiful. But yeah, just cluttering up this space, and then we should be moving upstairs to decorate those bathrooms, the hallway, and the 3 kids' bedrooms. So while that's all happening, let's get back to some of our fun facts about Minnesota. The state bird is the loon. The state butterfly is the monarch. The state flower is the pink and white lady slipper. The state tree is the red pine tree, or sometimes it's called the Norway pine. And the state fruit is a Honeycrisp apple. And I love a Honeycrisp apple, so seeing that just made me excited for this upcoming fall season. I can't wait to go apple picking. It's just such a lovely time. Anyway, there are more gray wolves that live in Minnesota than in any of the other lower 48 states. And you might have heard of the Los Angeles Lakers, the basketball team. They are actually called the Lakers because they were originally from Minnesota, which is the land of the lakes. So one of the kids in this house, one of the teenagers, I decided they could be into basketball. I thought that was a fun idea. And speaking of things or people from Minnesota, some famous people from Minnesota include Judy Garland, Bob Dylan, and Hubert Humphrey. Also, it looks like I completely forgot that I decorate the office on the main floor before we head upstairs to decorate all of the bedrooms, so oopsies on that. It's a pretty simple office though. I think it ends up being pretty cute. I have a fishing rod hung up in here. I assume there's probably a good deal of fishing that might go on in a place with so much water. I also love adding the globe bar in offices. I just think it's a cute piece that not only looks nice, but is functional. And so I just have that in here and a record player and some plants. It's a cute little office. But some more facts about Minnesota is that the state produces more turkeys each year than there are people in the state of California. It's a very specific fact, but I thought it was interesting. And also, Minnesota has 3 times more white-tailed deer than it does have college students in the state. Once again, very specific. I'm just getting the idea that there's so much wildlife, and that sounds very lovely. I've always lived in areas in New England that I'm not really close to cities. I'm always close to like the woods and stuff, and I really like being around all of the wildlife. So this sounds lovely. Shifting gears quite a bit, Minnesota was actually the first place to host a successful open heart surgery back in 1952. And long before it aired on Comedy Central, the TV show Mystery Science Theater 3000 premiered on Minneapolis public access television in the late 1980s. I love how random these facts are. They're not connected at all. I just made a list of things that I thought were really interesting, and I will have links in the description if you'd like to learn some more about Minnesota, both about its actual environment and also some fun facts and stuff. There's going to be links down below. Also, if you're from Minnesota and you want to share any fun facts or information about your home state, please leave those in the comments. I would love to read that. And same thing goes for any states we haven't tackled yet. If there's something you think is important for me to know for a future build, either just a fact to share, something that might impact how the build comes out, please share. I would love to hear everything. For example, I had so many comments before I did my Pennsylvania house that I needed to include a Pittsburgh toilet, and we did exactly that. So if you don't know what that is, go watch the Pennsylvania house. I thought that was a really fun one. Anyway, I'm working on the first kid's bedroom now, which is the teenager that's into basketball, and I went for a little bit of different color schemes in these bedrooms than I typically do, and had some various combined interests. So like there isn't just, oh, this sim only likes this thing in any of these rooms. So this sim in particular has this really fun color scheme of like navy blue and pink based on this bed from high school years. And they're into basketball, but I also have like some not sports, basketball is a sport, some music stuff in here and like some arts and crafts and things. I thought it was kind of a fun mix and a color scheme I almost never go for. So just getting some more clutter in here, and then we'll move on to the other bedrooms where I was imagining one of the other ones is also a teen, and then the last one is for a kid. So we're going to start with our teenager room over here using this other bed from high school years. It's only a single bed, but I thought that made the most sense for this room, and I don't think by default as a teenager you get a double bed. I know in The Sims a lot of us do that, but that was not my experience in real life. I didn't get a larger bed than a twin bed until I moved out on my own, and that definitely wasn't when I entered high school. So I think it's fine to have a single bed. I just tend to go for the larger ones for some reason in the game. Anyway, this sim has more of a like outdoors feel to their room, I guess, but more like they enjoy nature, not like hiking. So we have pretty flowers, and I also have a cute desk in here. I also was imagining they might be into playing guitar, maybe growing some of their own plants and things like that. It's a pretty generic teenager's room, but I really like how it came out. And I tried to use a lot of matching furniture in these rooms, even if it doesn't match the wood that the house has. Well, I prefer the way it looks when the wood tones all match. I don't think it's realistic that all of your furniture is going to match the same wood tone of like the walls and the floors. And also, I really prefer the look of having the hardwood floor with a rug over it instead of fully carpeted, but I thought this was way more realistic based on all of the references I was seeing. So I did decide to go with that, which makes the floors look a little bit more bland, but I just feel like they feel so real. So that is why that was chosen. But this is our final bedroom. I was thinking this was a kid that is also into sports. And so they have quite a few sport items in here, but they also really like space. So it kind of shifts. It starts very sports themed and then shifts to space themed. And I kind of mix the two together because that's just kind of how life is. Your interests tend to be multiple. You don't just have one. So I really enjoyed decorating this room. You'll see the shift to space in a little while here. But as I'm finishing decorating that, I'm going to get to my last couple of facts that I wrote down about Minnesota. And we're going to start with one of those funky laws that, is not upheld. It's like really silly, which is it is a law in Minnesota that a person may not cross state lines with a duck atop his or her head. So make sure you don't have a duck on your head if you're going to, leave the state of Minnesota or enter the state of Minnesota. It's very, very important. And then lastly, Minneapolis's Skyway system is the world's largest indoor network for pedestrian travel. It connects more than 70 city blocks in over 11 miles and protects pedestrians during harsh weather. I thought that was really cool, and I wish I had that here to stay out of the cold weather because it gets really, really cold in my neck of the woods, but I understand. The couple of times I've been through Minnesota, it's been very cold. Even when it's just a layover and transferring flights, stepping off into -17 degrees Fahrenheit is not exactly comfortable. But that is all the facts that I wrote down for Minnesota. If you have any more you would like to share, please do so in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And we're going to be finishing off this build with the backyard. Here is the boat I had mentioned. I'm going to be putting that on the side just out of the fencing so that it's not taking up valuable space in the backyard, where I just have a swing set and some planters out here. I'm also going to be grabbing a barbecue and a table and chairs so your Sims can enjoy some outdoor dining if they'd like. And this is actually a 6-seater dining table. I almost never use it. It's from the backyard stuff pack. But that is pretty much it for this build. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. And make sure you check out that sale going on right now on the EA app, and consider using my code Gryphi at checkout for the sale or for the new Adventure Awaits expansion pack. Please enjoy the screenshots, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.